Good evening, everybody. Meeting again in the session of Materia Medica, and we were discussing since last two lectures the sulfur, a very big antisoric remedy, a polycrest from the and great antisoric from Hahnemann. We have learned on day one the constitution of the sulfur patients, how they are the generally lean thin with stoop-shouldered personalities which are there, and with a dirty, filthy looking. And generally, these peoples, they never liked to get bath. The face is greasy and skin is dry. So the constitution which is generally expressed over there, along with few cases we have discussed on day one. Yesterday also we have learned regarding the few cases and followed by some particulars where the remedy is very marked. The burning, the characteristic of burning in each and every part, that is the thing which we have discussed, and the burning better by cold application, that also we have discussed. The congestion in every single part, that part also we have discussed in detail. Then the third important thing which we have discussed is related with the headache of this, the sick headache every week or 2 weeks. That also we have discussed. And specifically, one important indication where we have discussed, differentiated the sulfur from soranum, that when there is a relapse of the cases again and again in acute states, the sulfur is the remedy. And if it happens there in the chronic cases, then soranum is the remedy. And that's what we have discussed. Before entering into the Helen's keynotes, I want to share one important case. This fellow was came to me a way back. It was nearly about 1995-96, where I learned a lot from that case. I took the whole case according to the regular method. The patient was having bilateral eczema on both sides of the foot. It was thick, dry, absolutely, and patient scratches it a lot. And he said that whenever I start, the itching starts, I used to scratch, and until there is bleeding, I used to scratch and scratch. And it is followed then by the burning. Then I asked, what do you do? He said that only cold washing gives me a little bit relief. So the person was very tidy, very good looking. He was branch manager of one bank, and absolutely in a good dressing, he came into the clinic. So thought was fixed in my mind that sulfurs are dirty looking and all those things. But rest of the things were typically of a sulfur nature. Because the way he was talking was very typical. Whenever I used to ask anything, he used to explain his own theories behind that. So that was very characteristic with that patient. Whatever I used to ask, I asked something, then his answer is always like that. Doctor, I think so. And he starts the answering, I think so. What I feel is the theorizing. What is his theory regarding the thing? So that was very important. Second thing, whenever he has to explain, he tries to make the impression that I know something, and he used to show the references. So I asked something regarding his nature. Then he said, Doctor, I'm a man. Ultimately, the mistakes will going to happen with the man. So these are the philosophical things which used to happen over there every off and on in the case. So otherwise, he was looking or showing the whole sulfur entities, everything. But only thing, he was tidy and well neat dressed. So there was a jumbling, and I was newcomer in the field of homeopathy. So what to do? So I considered better to go with the symptomatology instead of just what we have learned regarding the sulfur personality, and just see what happens. There are multiple impressions happens in our mind that, sir, whenever any skin condition is there, let us start with low potency and don't go for high, otherwise it aggravates. So certain thoughts are always there. So I have started sulfur 30, few doses, followed by the placebo, and patient returned after 10 days. And he said, Doctor, yes, little bit itching is better, but things are as it is. So I saw the eruptions, and eruptions were that similar type, looking similar. I took again the whole totality. I asked everything, and he said same story, nothing more than that. So I considered it's better to go for 200. So I have given 3 more doses of sulfur 200, kept him on placebo for another week, and asked him to meet me after another 10 days. After 10 days, when he came, he said, Doctor, this time I felt much better. The itching has gone, but still it looks as it is. But when I saw the eczema, that eczema where earlier there were signs of scratching and bleeding spots were there, those were absent in that case. And basically his symptom, the itching was controlled, much controlled. So again, I just go on asking all those details to confirm whether my remedy is right or it is partial symptom. And I ultimately I found the whole story that it is again a sulfur, nothing more than that. This time I make a daring to give him a 1 m. And after giving 1 m, after 15 days when he returned, there was not a single spot indicating there was an eczema. I have photographs of that. In fact, that story taught me that every skin eruption, you should not start with the low potencies. The eruptions which are there, which are indicating the which are because of psychosomatic conditions, which are autoimmune and expressions where mind is at the fault, many a times you have to utilize the potency higher in such types of cases. So eczemas, the psoriasis, the lichen planus, these are the conditions which are very deep. They are not superficial skin entities like RP simplex. They are not the skin conditions which are just a staphylococcal infections. These are the conditions where there is a correlation of the mind with the eczema or with that lichen planus, with that psoriasis, and you have to go for high. And thereafter, when I started using the potencies high, I got instantaneous results. The remedies worked very instantaneously in such types of disorder. That was a lesson which has I have learned from that case. That yes, in such types of cases, you have to think while utilizing the potency. Don't go with the thought that start from low and go with high. If patient never returns, it will be a loss for our point of view, and this should not happen. So this is too important to understand regarding this, and that was a big lesson I have learned. Second important thing, that every uh, dirty looking person is not a sulfur, and every good looking person is not a sulfur. You should not make your ideas. It becomes a prejudiced mind. Ultimately, what patient presents makes you or gives you a clear-cut idea what should be prescribed. So this was a very clear-cut case which taught me a lot of aspects regarding the medicine selection as well as potency selection. So that's what I thought that it should be shared with you, and so that you can understand that potency, specifically in such types of disorders which are chronic in a big seated, there you should not think of low potency, but always go for the higher potencies also, but not in repetition. So that's all about the case. Let us start with the next part of the Allen's keynotes of the regarding the few more symptoms which we will going to discuss in today's session. We have finished up to the sick headache. That's what we have learned. Let us go what he says next. Constant heat on the vertex. This is one common feature. Patient always talks. He has a heat. His body is hot. He feels heat everywhere. He talks. I get very much heated over there. So constant heat on vertex. Cold feet in daytime with burning soles at night. Contradictory. Whole day the feet are cold, but at night they burns a lot. This is very specific. That's why it has been written over there with burning soles at night. It in italics. Wants to find a cool place for them. I have I my one of my close relatives. She told me that she has severe burning in soul. And I asked, what do you do? She said that my cot is there, bed which is close to the wall, and that wall always remains cool because it is attached with the bathroom. So I keep my feet directly touched to the bathroom, that wall, and I feel better. See, the people tells you the things in a different words. You have to understand the patient burning better by cold. When patient wants to keep it in cold, is sulfur indication. So another remedies are sanguinary and sanicule also. Puts them out of the bed to cool them off like medorinum. Medorinum, lacacy, sulfur, these are three remedies where you keep your feet out of the bed. So that when they keeps out of the covering, they feels better because they want the cold air. Many people do one thing, they tries to make a fan in that specific direction toward their feet, and that is another indication for the sulfur. Cramps in calves and soles at night, this is one more thing. There are few remedies which one should not perfect regarding the cramps in calves. One most important remedy is always a cuprum metallicum. When patient complains of cramps, specifically at the periphery, in the hands, in the feet, cuprum plays very vital role. When it is related with the calves, the calcarea calf is another remedy which you can think of. And this is the third one which Hahnemann mentions is the sulfur, cramps in the calves and soles, specifically at the night. So it is associated with burning feet. Then it is more sure, you are more sure that it is the sulfur. Hot flushes during the day with weak faint spells passing off with little moisture. So hot flushes during the day, that is another thing. Patient talks, their body is heat, body is very hot, they are very hot personalities, and my body, there is the hot fumes comes out. This is sulfur, like if it is at a climacteric age, in females it is lachesis or sanguinaria. So hot flushes during day with weak fainting spells and passing off with a little moisture. So there is not so much moisture. There is not so much of perspiration which you used to get in murk swallow, which you used to get in legacy. Here there is a little moisture, not so much perspiration. The skin remains to be a dry, more dry. Bright redness of the lips as if blood would burst through. So tremendous redness of the lips, and that is one indication with which you can find it out sulfur, and it burns. There is not only the redness, the congestion over there, but it burns a lot. Patient tells that doctor, I feel that it will burst out. It is so congestive. Same is there with the tuberculin, but tubercular personality is rather different. Tuberculinum personality, where you get a typical constitution of tuberculinum, that is tall, slender, weak, emaciated, narrow chested. And tuberculinum sweats a lot, specifically at night. That is another important thing which you can catch with the tuberculinum. Sulfur, it burns at night. So you have to find it out the differentiating factors between these remedies, and you can compare and easily catch whether it is sulfur or tuberculinum. Weak, empty, gone, or faint feeling in the stomach. This is again very important entity. Whatever they eat, they feel it has been gone, all gone sensation. And specifically that hungry feeling is at the 11 a.m. or 10 or 11 a.m. ameliorated by eating is natramkar. So sulfur, it is very specific. They are hungry in the morning, very hungry at the morning, specifically at the 11 a.m. That is the typical period where the sulfurs are hungry and they feels that everything is lost. Whatever is there, whatever they have consumed is lost, all gone sensation. Sulfurs people have that specific appetite. So weak, empty, gone, or faint feeling in the stomach about 11 a.m., 10 or 11 a.m. ameliorated by eating in natrium core. Cannot wait for lunch. That is another thing. They cannot wait. If they are hungry, they won't sit by any means. They goes to the kitchen, finds it out something, they eats for immediately. They find it out. At least this will give them some relief. So that's they cannot tolerate the appetite. Frequent weak faint spells during the day. That is because of weakness. That is weakness which is got because of loss of appetite, loss of food or loss of energy. and because of appetite, and that's why they faint. They feel that they are getting fainted. Compare with Jinkam, but Jinkam it is rather different. Jinkam it is the epileptic spasm generally. In Jinkam it is either a epilepsy, which is grand mal or petit mal. Both things are there in Ginkgo Italicum. It is not just like a sulfur where the fainting spells happens to be there because of hungry feeling. Ginkgo, it is rather different entity, and Ginkgo is the remedy where the things goes right from the skin to the brain. The pathology goes suppressed at the skin level, enters into the brain, producing epilepsy, producing any pathology inside the brain like hydrocephalus, the encephalitis, the panencephalitis, or SSP, subserosal panencephalitis, anything. That is the Ginkgo metallicum pathology. Ginkgo is more deeper at that level. This remedy is not like that. This remedy is comparatively not going into that depth. Diarrhea. Diarrhea after midnight. Diarrhea painless, driving out of bed early in the morning and written in bold, and it has a meaning. Patient wakes up and directly enters into the toilet. That is very important. The morning diarrhea and patient is driving directly to the goes to the toilet like aloes, like soranum, as if the bowels were too weak to retain their contents. That was another feeling that urging is so severe that he has to hurry up to the closet. And that is very typical with this remedy. So we have to keep those things which are specifically indicated and written in bold has a lot of meaning in sulfur. Same is true with the aloes, but aloes diarrhea is rather different than sulfur diarrhea. Aloes diarrhea, it is dysentery more. There is gripping colic before, during, and after stool. That is aloes. There is more mucoid stools in aloes. That is a generally amoebic dysentery which you used to get in the aloes. If it is there with the arsenic album, it is more commonly a bacillary dysentery. It is associated with more fever, with the bleeding along with the dysentery. So you have to understand the clinically also that how the remedy differs from each other. So aloes, it is amoebic dysentery indicating the aloes, bacillary dysentery indicating the croton tick or arsenic album, and here in sulfur it is soric diarrhea. Constipation. So either a diarrhea, either a constipation, two opposite poles. Constipation where the stools are hard, knotty, dry, as if burnt, and this is what we have learned in bryonia. Bryonia, it is dry. It is a big hard stools, and they are as if burnt completely. Similar thing which happens to be there with the sulfur. So both comes close to it. Constipation, large, painful. Child is afraid to have the stool on account of pain. So that is more common. This constipation is more common with the children, and they never goes to the closet because of fear of pain. It is with difficulty they passage the stools, and that's the problem with the sulfur. Or pain compels the child to desist on the first effort. So the child tries to avoid to go to the stools. He never wants to pass the stools. He has to force, and that is very difficult with the sulfur. It is very painful for the sulfur patient because when it passes with the pain, it passes with pain and followed by the burning over there, and that's why child is afraid to go to the closet. Constipation alternating with diarrhea like a naxomica, and nux is acute of the sulfur. Nux is complementary to the sulfur. Nux is very acute, sulfur is very defective. For the Naxomica, there are three complementaries. Sulfur is there from soric myasm, the sepia is there from tubercular myasm, and kali cough is there from the psychotic myasm. These are three remedies which are complementary to the Nux. But sulfur is very important remedy where both symptoms are very close to each other, that alternate diarrhea and constipation with urging for the stool in both remedies. But in sulfur, it is chronic. In Naxomica, it is acute. So two remedies very close to each other and complements one another. The discharge both of urine and feces is painful to the parts over which it passes large quantities of colorless urine. Parts around the anus red, excoriated. All the orifices of the body are very red. All the discharges acrid, excoriating wherever they touch. And this is characteristic of the sulfur. So if the patient passes urine, there it scalds a lot. It causes a lot of pain. So this is very typical with the sulfur patient. Same is true when they passes the stools, there is severe excoriation followed by a burning. So why they afraid to pass the stools or urine is it is because it is followed by the burning, and that burning is very critical. They cannot tolerate that. This is what the history is there, that they tells that there is severe difficulty in passing stools, and then that child is having severe burning, and he asked to apply the cold water over there. That is another thing. It has been written in the bold that parts around the anus red and excoriated. This is too important. The whole area around the anus becomes red, excoriated, rough, and that is because there is severe burning and itching. The scratching is also there. The itching is because many times these sulfur children are having the worms, the pinworms, and it is one of the very important remedy for the worms. So this is one indication because of which the excoriation around the anus happens to be there. All the discharges are acrid. So whether it is urine, whether it is leukorrhea, whether it is stools, all they are acrid, excoriating whatever they touch. So it makes him excoriating as if burnt. Excoriation is the sensation, or the part becomes as if it has burned. That is excoriation. Then menses, the female genitalia. We'll finish these two symptoms which are very important from the female genital tract. The menses, and menses are too early. So patient comes to you again and again with the early menses. They tells doctor, I get menses twice in a month. This is one indication which is there. Second, they are profuse. So it is lot of bleeding. They pass a lot of bleeding. And third important word which is used by Allen, and it is very marked with the sulfur, is protracted. Protracted means long lasting. Menorrhagia. Menses which persistent for longer time of period is protracted. And you in the repertory also you get same word. It is you will not get menorrhagia. Menses protracted, that is long lasting. And in our mathematics, in our repertory, there is one common theme which is mentioned over there. That is the how many days it lasts. The remedies are mentioned. If it is for 10 days, the remedies are there. For 12 days, remedies are there. 15 days, remedies are there. So this is also one of the important thing which is not there with the allopathic pharmacopoeia, but which is very special with the homeopathy, which is mentioned over there. Menorrhagia has not been well since her last miscarriage. What is it? Has not well since her last miscarriage. A single dose at the new moon, said by Lippe. Last miscarriage, last abortion happened, and thereafter the patient has developed the menorrhagia, and it is not disappeared. It is persistent. Why it happens? Many times it happens because of either two reasons. Retained products over there, that is one reason. And if it is not retained products, then second important thing is that it might be there is a post-inflammatory reactions which happens over there, the endometrial, and because of which it bleeds continuously. That is another thing. These are two important things because of which such a thing happens. So since last miscarriage, if there is a menorrhagia persistent, this is the keynote of the sulfur, and one should not forget this keynote. One must keep this. And what Lippe has said is his own personal utilization of this. He used to give a single dose at new moon, every new moon, and that patient gets cured. So this is important. This is a very important thing which has been mentioned by him over there. So these are the hints which one must catch, utilize, try and utilize in your practice. If you find it, just mention that this is the proof I have done in my practice. I have utilized. So such a things which are mentioned by them have a meaning. There is one question asked by Sakshi. Yes, in Borik they have given menses are too late of sulfur. Menses are too late, too early, too profuse, too protracted. It varies from person to person. Here you don't have to prescribe directly on the menses. Here you have to consider whole thing in the case. You have to take into consideration that lady should be of the sulfur, then you can prescribe the sulfur, not only on the one characteristic over there. So it might be a protracted, it might be a too long lasting, it might be very late, it might be too early. These are not the things on which you are going to prescribe directly. You have to ultimately prescribe for the patient who is sulfur. Then you are going to give the sulfur. So on one indication, you should not prescribe. Second important thing, if you are prescribing on the keynotes, at least 3 keynotes should be there, which Kent has said, it is the 3-leg stool concept that is more important. A stool, if it has to remain stable, at least it requires 3 legs. So if you want to prescribe remedy, at least it should have 3 characteristics with which you can think about the remedy. So it is not dependent. It is not menses too late or too early is not a characteristic symptom. And that's why one should not take into consideration unless and until you get the characteristics of the sulfur in the case. So I think we'll stop over here and we'll go into the skin condition because those are very important from the sulfur in the Monday's lecture. Monday we'll finish this remedy and complete the sulfur. So I think that's all for today. If any queries are there, we'll have a chat. Otherwise, we'll conclude. Any questions? If the patient is on some remedy and later he comes for any acute, it is necessary to give the remedy which follows or complement the previous one. It depends upon situation. If the acute is of severe character, yes, definitely you have to treat that. You have to find it out an acute remedy and you have to give that remedy. Should not wait for the body. Many times it happens that these acutes, if you get a right remedy at that time, it clears up the acute state as well as chronic state along with that. But if you don't treat that acute, the internal chronic malady might increase. So it depends. You have to think about that. It is ultimately a decision made on the spot, depending what the patient presents. Depending on that, you have to think and you have to utilize your remedy. Okay. Anything else? A single toss at new moon, Lippe, any special significance of new moon? It is his own understanding. There is no special significance, but he used to, why he has written like that, I could not know. But that is his experience. He might have utilized that way and he got the success. That was the reason. That is the hint given by him. So that's all for today. We'll conclude here and we'll meet on Monday. Thanks a lot being there. We'll have a chat definitely on Monday. Good night.